home create, home resist, 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 home. They say home is where the heart is. But sometimes the hardest part is knowing what the heart wants. Bousculés par le temps, les jours s'estampent vers un futur qui paraît incertain. And sometimes the light shines so bright, and the way forward rings so true. Se retrouver dans le regard d'autrui. Tant de surprises que la vie nous réserve. To build a home that stands tall, defying the winds of uncertainty. Teinté de toutes les couleurs, une cascade de beauté. Voilà ce à quoi ressemble mon foyer. For you, for me, a home for us.
Ma peine immense, je veux m'enfuir, que tout recommence. Oh ma douce souffrance, je remue le ciel, le jour, la nuit. Je danse avec le vent, la pluie. Un peu d'amour, un brin de miel, et je danse, 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 danse. Et dans le bruit, je cours et j'ai peur. Et c'est mon tour, reviens là.
se perd sur sa bouche. Voilà le portrait sans retouche de l'homme auquel j'appartiens. Quand il me prend dans ses bras, qu'il me parle tout bas, je vois la vie en rose. Et dès que je l'aperçois, alors je sens dans moi mon cœur qui bat.
One more time, we're gonna celebrate. Oh yeah, alright. Don't stop the dancing. One more time, we're gonna celebrate. Oh yeah, alright. Don't stop the dancing. One more time, we're gonna celebrate. Oh yeah. One more time. One more time.
L'inspiration est infinie. She flows freely from you to me. L'inspiration est immortelle. She transcends life and death with a story to tell. L'inspiration n'a pas de frontières. Elle traverse la terre entière and you can even find her right here. She travels at the speed of light. To fight her is pointless. Se laisser aller est la seule réponse. Paris, ville lumière, muse de pierre. Ses routes, ses pavés sont faits pour inspirer. And I found her right here in these streets, sometimes crowded, sometimes quiet, but always calling. Paris, city of light, city of resistance, city of my inspiration.
Good morning, everyone. Bonjour, and welcome to Day 2 of the Partnership for Healthy Cities Summit. Very soon, we'll announce the winning cities being recognized this year for their outstanding work fighting non-communicable diseases and injuries. And I want to thank the teams from those cities and everyone here for the work you do every day. It really is helping to save and improve an awful lot of lives. And even with everything going on in the world, that should put a smile on your face today. I also want to give a big thanks to our host. She's someone our team at Bloomberg Philanthropies has worked with in many ways, from improving public health to fighting climate change. On those issues and many more, she's a bold leader who's never afraid to do what's right. Her work has made the future of the City of Lights even brighter and helped set an example for mayors everywhere. Please welcome my good friend, the Mayor of Paris, Anne Hidalgo.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mike. Thank you for this wonderful morning together and for the energy of all these artists we see before. Merci beaucoup d'être ici. Je vous souhaite la bienvenue. Bienvenido también a todos los amigos, alcaldes y amigas de todos los países de Sudamérica y de Asia. Welcome to you. I'm very, very happy to having you in my city, city of light, but city of love, and your city, because this city is an amazing and creative city, like all the cities, because we share that with all my colleague mayors. We love our cities, of course. We live in our cities, and we share this love for this level, this very, very, very important, nice level, who we can work for the people, for better life. Thank you for being here. It's an honor to having you in this room in Paris today. I stand before you 5 years after the COVID pandemic and its impact, but today we still experience troubled times for global health. And the difference between what we experimented and learned in 2020 and what we are experiencing in 2025 is huge. 5 years ago, we have together in all our cities, in all our countries, we have undergone a real cultural shift and realized how vulnerable we are. COVID-19 was not only a health crisis, but the brutal revelation of our mutual dependence of body and society, of city and nature, of health and politics. My dear friends, I would like to share this morning 5 key messages with you. 5 messages for the health of our cities, their population, and the world we share. They are, of course, the results of my experience and my experience with you and with Bloomberg Philanthropy. And I will thank one more again Mike and you, Patti, and also who, because we are working with you and we believe in your organization, in this international organization. It needs 5 messages, and firstly, our health needs science. We need science. It needs independence, research, and academic freedom, because public health is based on free and accessible data. It's what we are doing also with this team, with this partnership we have together. It needs free researchers who can study what they consider necessary to restore our knowledge in our common interest. Secondly, our health and the health of our environment are interconnected. We must preserve ecosystems and biodiversity. We must, in particular, stress the existence of climate change, fight against global warming, and adapt to its consequences. I wish to praise the decision of the Partnership of Healthy Cities to extend its range to action to the resilience of cities to heat waves and extreme heat. We have that also in Paris, and it's very strange for us to say that today. In Paris, we act. We planted vegetation in schoolyards, create school islands, and reduce artificial soils. But we know we always have to go the extra mile. We must also keep fighting against the industries that poison our air, our water, and our food also. Restoring our environment is essential for living in better health today. But it is also important for the future to prevent new epidemics and new risks from emerging. The 2 subjects, we know that, are linked, and it is precisely people suffering from non-communicable disease. And thirdly, good health for us depends on the healthy population in the north and in the south. We are dependent also. I believe this strongly. A society in good health is a society that fights against inequalities. Whether we are talking about COVID, AIDS, addiction, accident, or cancer, illness, and disability, never affect everyone in the same way or with the same consequences. Social, educational background, inequalities shapes our chance of being born, growing up, living, and aging in good health. To limit the effect of these inequalities and protect the most vulnerable, we must continue to invest in public health policies and in international cooperation. This is one of the most important key. Firstly, our health needs also, we know that because we are also politicians, political courage. I say it again with force. Reducing, for example, the place of the car traffic in our cities, creating low emission zones, changing the way we get our food, but also vaccinating children. We know that today they can provoke resistances. We know that, and we are facing that. And while the public debate is necessary and good, it is our responsibility as mayors and politicians to ensure that the right decisions are made and to prevent conspiracy theories and lies. There are moments when to govern is to decide, and those moments are now. Finally, my dear friends, our health depends on local action. We know that also. And this is why I will call the right approach one of proximity, rapid response, and rebuild trust, because we need rebuild trust. The cities have proven their capacity to lead innovative and efficient policies, and all of you here, members of the Partnership of Healthy Cities, are living example of this collective strength. Thank you for your day-to-day commitment. And in the world at times anxious about itself, let's keep hope. Our cities show what is possible. Our cities lead the way. Before welcoming my dear Patti, the CEO of Bloomberg Philanthropies, to this stage, I would like to share one last word with you in French. Mes chers amis, à Paris, nous avons organisé les Jeux olympiques et paralympiques. Ce fut un moment extraordinaire. Mais ces Jeux, nous les avons organisés et j'ai voulu, dès le début, que ces Jeux soient justement inscrits dans un programme qui transforme notre ville, qui rende cette ville plus respirable, qui la rende plus agréable pour la population, qui la rende plus accueillante, plus ouverte, plus saine, plus sûre. Et c'est possible, nous avons pu le faire, et je crois que beaucoup de Parisiens, de Parisiennes, de Français qui étaient sceptiques, qui étaient inquiets, c'est peut-être une façon d'être français que d'être sceptique, et encore plus parisien. Mais beaucoup, lorsqu'ils se sont retrouvés dans nos rues, avec d'autres personnes venues de toute la planète, pour partager à travers le sport, à travers un événement, à travers l'art, la beauté de notre ville, mais en même temps cette conviction que même dans une ville très historique, très traditionnelle dans sa construction, il était possible d'être engagé sur les défis du siècle et de faire en sorte que la santé environnementale, la santé mentale soient des éléments intégrés, complètement intégrés au but que nous avons poursuivi pendant ces Jeux olympiques et paralympiques. C'est possible. Je crois que nous avons aussi fait la démonstration que la santé nécessite des politiques globales, des politiques soutenues par le niveau international, et je redis tout mon soutien à l'OMS, mais aussi, bien sûr, des politiques qui se réalisent à l'échelle des villes, à l'endroit où on se regarde avec les habitants, les yeux dans les yeux, à l'endroit où justement on peut reconstruire cette confiance dont on a tant besoin pour permettre à nos enfants et à nos petits-enfants de vivre dans un monde meilleur. Merci beaucoup à vous. Muchas gracias y enhorabuena. Patti, the floor is yours.
Merci beaucoup, Mayor Hidalgo, and welcome everyone. It is an honor to have you at our third annual Partnership for Healthy Cities Summit. It's great to be among so many dedicated public servants. I spent a very big part of my career in government, and I know how important the work you do truly is. I also know how busy you are. So a special thanks to you all for being here. And let me also recognize and thank the fantastic partners at the World Health Organization and Vital Strategies. Let's give them a great round of applause. We're excited to have representatives from more than 60 cities serving hundreds of millions of people. And I can't think of a better place for us to gather than here in Paris. Thank you to the City of Paris and Mayor Hidalgo again for being such gracious hosts. Of course, there's never a bad reason to be in Paris, in the City of Lights. But as Mike mentioned, under Mayor Hidalgo's wonderful leadership, Paris has been lighting the way to all of us in so many ways. And that includes all of her bold efforts to launch and confront climate change, which are improving people's lives here in Paris and inspiring cities all over the world. She has helped to make Paris a global leader in passing and implementing public health policies that combat non-communicable diseases and injuries and prevent injuries as well. At Bloomberg Philanthropies, we had the privilege of partnering with the mayor and her team, including on a project to install air pollution sensors near schools. I remember the very well day when we started the program. It was amazing. And spreading sound, effective, and proven ideas is what this convening is truly all about. Cities are on the front lines of combating the world's biggest problems. We all know that. And those problems are getting increasingly more challenging, especially as public health is under attack. But as Mike says, nothing important is easy, and there's no more important job for a mayor than protecting public health and safety. And in fact, one of Mike's proudest achievements as mayor of New York for 12 years was increasing New York's life expectancy by 3 years, far more than the national average when he was mayor. As mayor, he took on some of America's most persistent public health challenges: tobacco, obesity, and gun violence. And our policies were not always popular at first, exactly like Mayor Hidalgo said. Just ask anyone who was a smoker in New York. But they were effective. And a few years after the smoking ban was passed, we banned smoking in bars and restaurants, and then Paris did. And at the time, that was practically unthinkable. New York's success became a model for other cities, and smoking bans have continued to spread, saving countless lives around the world. I'm sure many of you have very similar stories about policies that were initially met with a lot of opposition and eventually proved not only effective, but popular. So we all know it's possible for cities to make progress on the biggest public health challenges we face. The question is, how do we make more progress faster? Because the work could not be more urgent. As we know, non-communicable diseases and injuries are responsible for 80% of all deaths globally. That's a pretty high number. And far too many lives are being cut far too short by things we can prevent. And it's up to all of us to shrink the death toll. One of the best ways to do that is by supporting policies that are proven to save lives and spreading what works. And that's why so much of our work at Bloomberg Philanthropies focuses on helping cities develop the most impactful ways to tackle intractable problems and helping mayors and their teams share the lessons learned. That's also why we're all here today. And I have no doubt I will leave Paris. I never want to leave Paris, but I guess I will, feeling inspired, and I hope you do too. Now, speaking of inspirational work, today we're honoring 3 cities who, like Paris, are lighting the way for all of us. These cities are being honored not just for their innovative ideas and the progress they've made, but also for how replicable their programs really are. So, it's my honor to announce this year's winners of the Partnership for Healthy Cities Awards. And I also want to note that the actual award itself was designed by a world-class architect based here in Paris, Lena Gottme. It's really quite beautiful. We're very happy about that. So the first is for excellence in food policy, which goes to a city that's been confronting childhood obesity head-on by implementing a policy to remove sugary drinks and ultra-processed foods from schools. Córdoba, Argentina.
Nuestra ciudad recorre un camino mejor desde que es parte de esa alianza, porque perseguimos un objetivo común que es mejorar la calidad de vida de nuestra gente. Hola, soy Daniel Passerini, intendente de la ciudad de Córdoba en la República Argentina. Nosotros hemos tomado la decisión de cuidar a nuestra niñez en el entorno educativo, proveer agua potable y en accesibilidad a todos los niños y niñas. Llevamos adelante un trabajo para poder eliminar de nuestros kioscos y cantinas los alimentos ultraprocesados y las bebidas azucaradas. En solo un corto periodo de tiempo, el 60% de los espacios educativos tienen a sus cantinas y kioscos en proceso de transformación. Con mucho honor y un altísimo orgullo recibimos este premio que nos otorga Bloomberg Philanthropies. La Alianza de Ciudades Saludables es un desafío al cual nuestra ciudad no solo se sumó, sino que se compromete. Muchas gracias.
Next, for excellence in surveillance, a city that established its first legal framework for air quality in 2023 and is already seeing results. Fortaleza, Brazil.
Toda essa população ela termina sendo impactada quando a gente investe em energias sustentáveis. Eu sou Evandro Leitão, prefeito de Fortaleza. Foi importante essa decisão que nós tivemos aqui alguns anos atrás de nós estarmos fazendo um monitoramento, avaliação do nosso ar e foram implantados. Agora a ampliação de nossa rede do ar, implantando monitores para que a gente possa ter uma qualidade cada vez melhor do nosso ar aqui em Fortaleza. Fortaleza vive numa busca incessante para nós nos tornarmos uma cidade cada vez mais sustentável. Muito obrigado por estar recebendo esse prêmio por parcerias por cidades saudáveis. Muito obrigado, Bloomberg Philanthropies.
And finally, for excellence in tobacco control. Over several years, this city has established expansive smoke-free spaces and led efforts to reduce smoking among their population, Greater Manchester, United Kingdom.
We want this to be the best place in the United Kingdom to grow up, get on, and grow old in good health. Hi, I'm Andy Burnham, Mayor of Greater Manchester in the north of England in the UK. Make smoking history succeed because it's a whole city region, whole system approach to smoking cessation. We've cut rates of smoking in pregnancy by 50%. We've developed a toolkit for people working within the NHS. We've also run extensive public consultations. We're also very proud to say Mayfield Park is now our first smoke-free park. Everybody benefits in Greater Manchester when anybody decides to give up smoking. I would like to thank Bloomberg Philanthropies, the Partnership for Healthy Cities, but also Michael Bloomberg himself, who led the way years ago showing what city leadership could do to improve public health. Together, we can make smoking history.
So congratulations to all the winners. Let's give them all another big round of applause. And on behalf of everyone at Bloomberg Philanthropies, and Mike Bloomberg in particular, we're so grateful to be partners in this important work. Thank you all for being here for this wonderful conference and for spreading what's working in your city around the world and learning from others. So thank you so much, and let's do a picture.
Please welcome to the stage the Mayor of Guadalajara, Veronica Delgadillo, the Mayor of Lusaka, Chilando Chitangala, the Mayor of Helsinki, Juhana Vartiainen, and our moderator from Bloomberg News, Francine Lacroix.
Hi, everyone. I think you're right here, Mayor. And I think we're just waiting for one final mayor. Thank you so much for joining us. What a wonderful event. Has anybody noticed that the artwork depicting the stained glass is actually of Paris? So it really shows the beauty but the power of these cities. Thank you. So we love to measure and track numbers at Bloomberg. So I'm just going to start with two very key facts. I think Patti already mentioned one of them. Non-communicable diseases and injuries account for 80% of deaths globally. That's 45 million deaths each year. And despite that, 73% of deaths in low and middle income countries, only 2% of global health funding goes towards addressing these non-communicable diseases, which is why it's so important. So mayors, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to spend about half an hour to try and understand some of the tips, some of the things that you've done well, some of the things that you would fight for differently so that everyone can benefit from your knowledge. Mayor, let me start off with you. When you look at the public trust, and it's very clear that after COVID-19, public trust lost in governments around health issues. What have you done to try and make sure, Mayor Delgadillo, that this does not continue, that you've had to fight back to try and change public perception?
Muchas gracias por la invitación.
And I'll be delighted to share with you some of the things we've been doing in the Guadalajara regarding public health. First of all, we have a team that I preside, and we are developing strategies, for example, in order to prevent violence, in order to combat certain diseases that in Mexico are very common, like dengue, and also combat addictions. And another level in our institution is to understand that public health is also worked through cleaning. We have a very ambitious program in the city to transform the city, making it a cleaner city, the cleanest city in the country. It's a city that has lived many problems managing their waste, and this impacts public health, obviously. And in this sense, we're impulsing a program which is called Clean Guadalajara, Limpia Guadalajara, meaning that the cleanliness of the city impacts mental health, impacts public health. Also, we are working to continue with actions that have been taken in the last years to build the agenda, the public health agenda. In this sense, in Guadalajara, for example, I preside a community of 14 municipalities where we work in collectively in public health issues. And the vision that we have of our city, the city of Guadalajara, is to make Guadalajara the city that looks after you, focusing on people and focusing on 3 pillars. One pillar is the work undertaken to be with the police forces. Second is what we do regarding public services and public spaces as well. There is one of the programs that we've been impulsing here, which is to look after public spaces which are safe for children. And the last pillar has to do with public policies that deals with health, physical health and mental health of its citizens.
Thank you so much, Mayor. Mayor Vertainen, we were hearing there about some of the 3 pillars that actually the great city of Guadalajara had put in place to fight and to push for public health. What have you done in Helsinki?
Well, we do a lot. Hello, good morning. I would have liked to arrive yesterday, but then it turned out that in Helsinki we had a surprise visit of President Zelensky from Ukraine, and he was interested in the underground shelters of Helsinki for understandable reasons. That's a very, very primordial thing that cities can do for the health of their citizens, not having bombs raining on them. So that's just a reminder of the world we live in. Then more to your question. We, of course, health is an integral part of my city strategy, has been it, and we have the city's welfare and well-being plan, which has many components: mental health, leisure activities, spaces for leisure activities, sports facilities, and many healthy lifestyles, many others. Perhaps and there are tens and tens of programs and reforms that we have done. Perhaps the most visible ones would be the increase in pedestrian lanes, in bike lanes, in playgrounds, even outdoor gyms that are open to everybody. They are not popular with gym entrepreneurs, of course, but we have judged that is something that will really, cycling and these outdoor gyms will make a difference. But then everything is not rosy. Mental well-being is very important, and we have realized that this unfortunate COVID epidemic has left a shadow legacy of young people not feeling well. There was a mistake in the national policy during the COVID epidemic of too much and too long a period of remote schools and universities, and that has left many young people not feeling well. Not really mental cases, but not really being at ease with themselves. And we have created low-threshold mental and therapeutic facilities as well. So we do many things. And some of these projects have also been, some of our projects have been facilitated by this Partnership for Healthy Cities, and we are quite grateful to this partnership, and of course to the Bloomberg Foundation buttressing these activities with their financial muscle. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Mayor. Mayor Stangala, what have you done for Lusaka to actually combat some of this public health crises?
Thank you very much. Lusaka is the capital city of Zambia in the southern part of Africa. We have a population of about 3.5 million people, and 70% of the city is unplanned settlement. So we have a peri-urban area which is large. That means that we really grapple with a lot of health challenges. But for me, I think one of the introductions that I would say that has helped the city a lot is also the introduction of the 30-kilometer speed limit that has reduced traffic-related injuries and fatalities. And this was introduced, we started working on it in 2017 when we started working with Vital Strategies. At that time, I was just deputy mayor and not mayor. So I'm very grateful that I've walked this journey with Vital Strategies supported by Bloomberg Philanthropies. So what has happened is that there's a limit of the cars when they're driving passing nearby a school, they reduce the speed between 40 and then 30 kilometers. And what is so good about it is that when this policy was adopted by the city, that we worked with government agencies, so it has been adopted countrywide. So it's a very good plus for us, it's a big win for us. And then also in 2024, Lusaka adopted its EVA cycling and pedestrian safety policy. But I must make mention that during COVID time, a lot of people in the city were seen walking and doing a lot of exercises. But how do they have safe work paths when we don't have a proper policy and we don't have such kind of facilities like pathways where they can walk and cycle? So it was a bit dangerous for them. So hence the reason why the local authority thought it's very important that we have a policy in place that will command all of us in the city that the infrastructure, when it's being built, when roads are being built, we need to secure such spaces, build them or pave them ways where they can cycle and walk. So for this policy, we are focusing on dedicated walkways and cycling lanes to minimize conflicts among road users and provide a safer environment for pedestrians and cyclists. We have successfully implemented this policy. But obviously, we need to do a lot of sensitization because remember, motorists will not care because they're driving. And then, so now we have to also be inclusive in the city where we have to make sure that we do a lot of sensitization in the communities and have a lot of stakeholders on board so that it can be accepted, especially when we're coming from a city where infrastructure has already been built. So we didn't leave spaces for planning the way I've seen this time in Paris. So now we are working on making sure that it becomes a nationwide policy so that even when government is building roads in the city or elsewhere, when they adopt the policy as well at the national level, we must make sure that we leave pathways for people to, pedestrians to walk and also cyclists. This means that we are not only catering for the underprivileged or the other class, but we are also inclusive because then it will be good for people to park their cars and walk to work safely without fearing the dangers of an accident or being unsafe in the city.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Mayor. I wanted to ask you about priorities, and maybe let's start with Mayor Vartanian, because you were mentioning that President Zelensky was, of course, in your city yesterday, and he wanted to see bomb shelters. And this really goes to the fact that the world is very unsettling at the moment. There's a risk of possible wars, there's trade tariffs, there's concerns about trade wars as well. So how do you prioritize public health or mental health, given all of the other constraints?
Well, let's say that these the current security situation has led us to reprioritize in the sense that we really now make a brush up of our crisis resilience systems and our shelters. But it is not as dramatic as it sounds in the sense that most of a country like Finland, next to Russia, it's mandatory to build underground shelters for everybody. We must have them. It's stipulated by the law. But these underground shelters are also mostly used in a city like Helsinki for other recreational uses. Some of them are sports grounds, playgrounds, under the ground for children. Even they might be parking lots, they might be swimming pools. So people know them, they are not afraid of them. And of course, then the law says that they should be emptied at 72-hour intervals if there will be a crisis. Of course, we build them in order not to have to use them.
Of course.
And, but yeah, that's true. Then something. But then, as to the more broader issue, we have a huge array of things where we work with. I mentioned some of them to you, but perhaps I would emphasize one thing that we have really now started to prioritize and understood how important it is, and it is data, or data, as the Anglo-Saxons say. We now use the digital society's means for gathering information on our different areas of the city, so that we can compare more privileged areas with more deprived areas. We construct indices of well-being, using variables like unemployment share of people with no college degrees, share of poor people. And then we can gather a lot of data, like looking at their food consumption baskets, or at the sports activities, memberships of young people in sports clubs, etc., so that we get a picture of where we really need to put our resources in order to improve it, to improve the lifestyles of young people and even elderly people. And then we now have started using the tools of modern statistics and econometrics to look at where we get the most bang for the buck. So I would say data analysis, analysis of outcomes, and efficiency of the use of our resources. Thanks.
Thank you. Mayor Delgadillo, how do you actually prioritize? And again, a lot of the root causes in non-communicable disease could lie outside public health. It could be tobacco companies. So how do you also engage with those stakeholders?
To understand that health is the same, is part of different agendas that affects people. In the case of Guadalajara, we understand that looking after people's health is important. It's the most important thing that a municipality can do. Therefore, there's a series of strategies that go around the looking after people. For example, we understand that if we work looking after their physical health, but also their mental health, then we're working for the well-being of the people, which is what we focus on at municipal level. The project that we are presenting here and that we work with you in this partnership of healthy cities, for example, we have this better conditions for girls and boys that go to school. They're able to reach the schools without having an accident, because accidents they might affect their body for the rest of their lives, or they can even die. Therefore, we believe that if you look the integrity of the children going to school and the people that look after them, we're giving priority for the well-being of people. But we also, when carrying out this exercise, we're carrying out the function that is of our competence, which is looking after the infrastructure, looking after the environment in an integral manner with people, and a series of public policies that will allow us to give well-being for people. Therefore, the well-being of people, the health is something prioritized. That means there's a series of priorities the municipality has to undertake. The tasks are not isolated. If you work, for example, infrastructure, if you work in public policies, when you work in safety as well, when you work in the area of public services, you're also working for the well-being and the health of people. Therefore, in the case of Guadalajara, we believe that our aim is that girls, boys, adults, people with disability could live well in their city and have safety. Therefore, all the work we're undertaking is integral at seeking the well-being of the general population.
Thank you so much, Mayor Chitangala. Can you give us a sense again how difficult it is in these many unknowns, and other parts of the city also need you to focus on public health, and maybe also talk about some of the other stakeholders like tobacco companies or big lobby groups that you have to try and either fight or get on board?
Yeah, thank you. It's very important that when we're working in the city to just achieve, we have to make sure that we balance public health initiatives with the above, and making sure that we involve collaboration across various sectors. For us in Lusaka, we've taken what we call a bottom-up approach, where we really need to involve community members and get feedback from them. And that doesn't just mean community members. You know, when we're going to talk about public health, we need to involve the health professionals and also the urban planners, and that's what we've been doing, just to ensure safety measures are aligning with the broader city goals. So for us, the cycling and pedestrian safety policy that we are now implementing has been a priority, just to reflect the focus on creating healthier urban spaces. And to come up with this policy, we really needed to do a lot of work underground and to make people understand why this is important. But not only those community members, it was important for me to work with my civic leaders to have a good buy-in, because as mayor, I work through my councillors. So it means that they need to have a buy-in. And we had to actually go to a different city who are also doing, who already have an infrastructure for cycling and walkways. Though they didn't have a policy, they were supported by another organization. But as soon as we went there and my councillors saw what was happening and how important it is to include people. And when you make infrastructure for the people, you really have to make sure that they have a buy-in for them to embrace and appreciate it. And my councillors were so happy and impressed about it. So it was very easy for us to pass that policy. So I know that working with community members, civic leaders that will have a buy-in and support the initiative, and also other stakeholders, like people that live and work in the city, organizations, it's very important that we work together and then have all these things on one plate, just to support a policy like that one or any other initiatives that we have for the city.
Thank you so much. We know, and we've heard actually from all of you, some of the priorities, some of the policies that you put in place that's not always are easy. Could you give maybe a little bit of advice to some of the technical leads, but some of the mayors here, on what they need to do to put this as a priority? Was there a difficult time that you've had to push something through or do something that wasn't liked by others that in the end you knew was the right thing, Mayor, and it really made a difference?
You have to commit yourself to the vision, the objective that you have in our cities. The case of Guadalajara, for example, we have a very clear vision, and we're also working with all the people in the town hall working. There's 12,000 civil servants that help 1.4 million inhabitants. We invite them to participate in this vision. For that, we have to explain what we have to do, what horizons we want to take. Guadalajara wants to be the city that looks after you. And how do we obtain this? Make awareness, through awareness, and also clarifying which are the tasks and how each of the people in the civil service or the functionaries form part of all this process. It's very difficult for the employees, in the case of the town hall, do not participate if they don't know what their task and all of them, how they can collaborate to make Guadalajara the city that looks after you. You have to awareness campaigns with our citizens. In the case of our city, we believe the best way to have this vision we're working on the pillar of safety, public service, of qualities, for example, and the policy of social policies. This will only be policy if we do this in a coordinated manner. We are carrying out campaigns with the citizens of the city, making them aware that building a city that they wish for and that they deserve and receive the public service that they like, but it's also in their hands, in their work, sharing with us. And we are just about to initiate a new process in the cleaning campaign in the city, where businessmen, women, universities will collaborate, as well as other sectors of society. So all together we could advance with the same objective. Therefore, in the case of Guadalajara, we know there's many challenges, and if we wish to make Guadalajara the city that looks after you, the vision has to be shared amongst all different estimates, and the leadership of the municipality will be fundamental in this, so society will also be participating in all this.
What's your best piece of advice of something that was difficult to put in place, but then you reaped the benefits?
Well, this was not a thing resisted by many, but my recommendation of priority would be to gather data, look at it, and try to do what is the most effective to combat or to promote whatever objectives you have. After all, if you see unhealthy lifestyles in some part of the city, or accidents, or school children not feeling well, what should you do really? You don't know whether the best thing is to talk to parents or increase the amount of special teachers or change the composition of school meals. But you can use data and analysis then to get some guidance on these issues. And I would also want to express my gratitude to this Partnership for Healthy Cities and Bloomberg, since this data gathering effort that has now been initiated and that will yield us some great returns, I hope, in the future. That has been partly facilitated by this partnership, and it is very valuable. And this is, well, it rhymes with my past life as a research economist, but I guess we can improve what we do by doing what is the most effective way of achieving those outcomes we wish for.
Thank you so much, Mayor Chitangala.
Yeah, thank you very much. For me, I think with my team, we've learned that when we want something done in the city, it's important that we don't only do stakeholder engagement in the communities, but the government agencies are very important, especially where policies are concerned. For us, the cycling and pedestrian policy is one of the most important one, and we just don't want it to be a policy for the city. We're now working with government agencies so that it must become a nationwide policy. This reason we've come up with this, why we're pushing it so hard is because, for example, a city like Lusaka, we already have existing infrastructure. And then when government itself is making these roads, and they've made quite a bit of roads the last few years, in the last 10 years, they haven't built roads where you have the pathways where you can have a cycling lane or maybe a pathway for pedestrians to walk. So this policy will make sure that it will be a mandate that when they're building this infrastructure, we need to think about having a proper pathway and cyclists for the people. But all this can only be achieved when you collaborate with other stakeholders that live in the city and making sure that the communities understand how important this is. But also we have achieved such things because we've had good partners like Vital Strategies who have supported our policy. Actually, I must really thank you for that. We've been really supported, and this took about 2 years of working on it, and we've achieved it. So we are very happy with that. And then for us, because we've always used a bottom-up approach, we have found that all these things that we do for the communities are accepted because we get the feedback from them, and we also work on the information that we gather from them and other stakeholders that live and work in the city.
Wonderful. Thank you so much to all three of you. Please could I have a big round of applause for Mayor Delgadillo, Vartainen, and Chitangala. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Please welcome to the stage from the United Nations, Corinna Hawkes.
Good morning. Good morning to all. Honourable Mayors, it's an absolute pleasure to be here. And thanks for asking me. I'm Director of Food Systems at the FAO. To be amongst such a wonderful and committed group of people and cities working so hard to make change. Urban food policy is key to that change, with a powerful role to play in advancing the well-being of people in our cities. Their first power is that they change the food environments around people in cities, the availability, the affordability and appeal of food as people go around their everyday lives in streets, in stores, in schools and way beyond. I know many cities who are part of Partnership of Healthy Cities have been making these changes. Montevideo in Uruguay has introduced nutrition standards in public institutions. London in the UK has advertising restrictions. Quezon City in the Philippines requires restaurant chains to include nutritional information on menus. Lima, Peru, has issued an ordinance promoting healthy eating in the city, including regulating the sale and advertising of unhealthy foods in schools and public spaces, promoting local fresh food markets, and implementing nutritional education programs. By discouraging the presence and visibility of unhealthy food and encouraging the accessibility of healthy food, cities are pushing on boldly, taking measures where national governments often shrink away, fighting industry interference, insisting on taking action against the flood of ultra-processed foods in their cities, while advancing opportunities for local people to connect with fresh, healthier foods in their neighborhoods. A second power of urban food policy is that it can connect with people. With people's daily realities, with people's often harsh realities, given the significant inequalities we often see. In work I was doing a couple of years ago, before I started at FAO, with colleagues from a range of cities in South Africa, the Philippines, the UK, we were working to understand the lived experience of food environments of people living in low-income neighborhoods, in poverty, and in food insecurity. What we found was that improving health cannot just rely on changes in food environments. It also needs changes in the infrastructure in which people live their lives and greater attention to gender equity. We found that women turn to ultra-processed foods not just because they are there and they are promoted, but because they provide solutions to their own lack of time, solutions to an unreliable and often dangerous energy supply, solutions to a lack of kitchen space, solutions to living in shacks prone to flooding and other environmental hazards. Instant noodles and sugary instant cereals are, after all, much quicker to prepare for time-poor women with undue burdens of food preparation. And while vegetables may be available in these communities at relatively low cost, preparing them in unsanitary conditions is not always a wise move. So urban food policy can be even more powerful when it considers this full picture of people's realities. Taking these realities into account can help the policies put into place to work more effectively, more efficiently to advance health of urban population, indicating, as the Mayor of Lusaka was just talking about, an important role for co-creation and participation in the development of urban food policy by the people who really experience the problems. The third power of urban food policy is that it is a great connector. By placing health into the broader interconnections that make up food systems, urban food policy connects multiple issues for multiple benefits, so bringing a broader constituency together to work together for change. In 2021, for example, the city of Puerto Viejo in Ecuador adopted a law designed to provide children in schools with safe, fresh, and diverse foods. But the law went beyond supporting child health. It also aimed to support family farmers and local agricultural development. It took smart moves to make this happen, overcoming real blockages to change, changing the procurement mechanism, established governance to connect the range of different people involved. But it meant that the policy began to change the system that underpins the food supply, with potential for more systemic, lasting change. These types of activities interlink with health in other ways, since they can build economies that affect the degree of migration into cities and support enterprise development among people struggling to find employment and thus experiencing food insecurity and poor health. Added to this is the important connection, as the Mayor of Paris indicated in her remarks, with the health of the environment. In 2017, as many of you will be familiar, the Mayor's Office of Food Policy in New York City made a conscious decision to use its multi-million annual food procurement budget to deliver co-benefits for health, environment, and economy. Through the Good Food Purchasing Framework, not only were children served healthy food, but between 2019 and 2022, there was a threefold increase in procurement for minority and women-owned food enterprises and a 20% decrease in greenhouse gas emissions from city food purchases. That's powerful. This approach to urban food policy that builds connections across sectors and urban-rural boundaries is increasingly recognised by cities. Melbourne's Food City 2024-34 policy sets out a whole vision for food systems. Nairobi and Kisumu counties in Kenya have food system strategies with budgets allocated by specifically designated food, agriculture and livestock departments. I was just talking earlier with colleagues from Bogota, where my colleagues at FAO have worked with them to develop a regional supply system strategy for food into the city. Colleagues are working in cities throughout the world, including right here in Paris, to make markets and other places where foods are served a node where agriculture can link with food systems in cities, in turn linking with health. There is a tremendous opportunity to connect all of these different food-related activities in cities for systemic change, to build portfolios of interlinked initiatives for greater impact. My call to action would be to make these connections in your cities, making the powerful work you are already doing even stronger by building one more bridge, enabling urban food policy to deliver its full power. Thank you very much. Now you heard, and many congratulations to the city of Córdoba for the award that they won earlier for their work on urban food policy. I now have the privilege of inviting Intendant Daniel Passerini from the city of Córdoba onto the stage for a conversation. I will be asking questions in English. He will be responding in Spanish, so do have your headsets at the ready. So could I invite you on stage, Daniel, please? Congratulations again, and an award clearly well deserved, and I'm looking forward to asking you more about it. I'll wait for you to, no please. Sorry to speak in English. Can you hear me now?
Yes, number 8. No.
Okay, thank you. So as we heard, in 2024, Córdoba introduced a decree mandating that municipal schools and educational facilities should only serve healthy foods. It was a huge win, as we heard, for the city. So can you tell us more about that policy and why you chose to pursue it?
Bueno.
First of all, we decided in 2021 to join the partnership of Healthy City towards the end of the pandemic. And obviously, we analyzed the situation that was worrying us, which was that our children were not drinking enough water. And obviously that the obesity indicators were higher in our country, including compared to many American countries. We had a 41% of children which were overweight or obese. And only 41% of the children were drinking enough water and were obviously drinking sugary drinks and ultra-processed foods instead. So we decided started to carry out a process so that we would install healthy kiosks or canteens in our schools. And we chose a program jointly with the alliance, with the partnership, which is Córdoba Chooses Water. And we issued a decree, 310, that would require in all schools to turn all the kiosks into healthy canteens in order to eliminate ultra-processed foods and sugary drinks and to introduce healthy foods. This process has been carried out in a very efficient manner, and today we have a very important result. With 60% of our schools have already been transformed, and our goal is to achieve towards March of 2026, 100% of our schools to have healthy foods in those kiosks. And today, 100% of our schools already have these hydration points in them.
Again, congratulations. Can you tell us a bit more about the public reactions to the policy? As I indicated in my remarks, sometimes there can be pushback to these policies. In other senses, there are constituencies when they're very popular. So what were the public reactions to this policy?
Bueno,
The biggest challenge was exactly to persuade the education community, it's not just pupils, but teachers and parents, that this was a decision that was positive, that was going to increase the quality of life. We know that sugary drinks and ultra-processed foods have consequences that are, in many cases, irreversible, from problems in your mouth, diabetes, obesity, and cardiovascular diseases, many complications that when the community is aware of, they start to be committed. That it was this communication task and awareness-raising task. I would like to thank the joint work that we did with the Partnership for Healthy Cities, because their collaboration was essential. We created healthy food exhibitions, interactive activities where children and families worked, and also wanted to highlight all the civil society organizations, the Nutritionist School, and the Inter-American Cardiologist Association, who provided materials and tools for communication so that this process would become a virtuous circle. So I would say that participation and awareness raising was essential so that we could see results quickly. And in fact, in only a year, 60% of those kiosks are already being transformed with architectural interventions. And I'm proud of saying that 10% already has the healthy kiosk installed, and the objective is in March, when the academic year begins, in 2026, we will be proud to say that 100% of our schools will have their healthy canteen and their healthy drinking points.
Thank you. These policies always have their challenges, and obviously it takes a lot of intentional action to work through them to succeed. Now, you've spoken about a very specific strategy, but there are broader strategies available to advance healthier diets, both at the urban level and at the national level. So how has Córdoba worked to ensure that the healthier school food work aligns with the city's broader strategy on healthy diets? And how does that then align with the national strategy?
Bueno, es muy importante.
It's very important, obviously, this global network of cities that is integrated here, for us to apply public policies always with the basis that this public policy is designed based on data and that the data is based on scientific evidence. This makes it solid. Argentina has a national law from 2022 on healthy food, that was better applied after our city issued the decree last year in order to apply it. Global public policies are no good if they're not applied and if the local government are not committed. That's why this interaction and the possibility to share experiences provide us with better tools in order to transform reality. Our children live in our cities, and that's why it's very important for us to have applied what the national law said, for example, on the labeling of ultra-processing foods, in order to make it applicable and to commit to the functioning of it. For a law to become from a good idea to a practical action, a commitment from local government is required of the communities that we represent. And in this case, I want to highlight the participation of universities and institutions, and also to use or to provide conduct or behavior at the point that it can have an effect. That's the success of this program.
Thank you very much indeed. I'm certainly, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, very much looking forward to seeing what happens in Córdoba into the future, and many good wishes with your excellent work. And again, a big round of applause.
Thank you.
Okay, we're now going to move on to the next session, which is a Get to Know You session. Thank you very much.
Good morning. What a lovely day with lovely people. I'm Joseph Ngamije, and I'm the Deputy Director for Partnership for Healthy Cities in Africa. And today I have the pleasure of introducing a very special guest all the way from Kampala, Uganda. And for those who don't know, Kampala is one of the most beautiful cities in Africa. So yes, it is. So we are going to learn more about her career, as well as what excites her the most about the partnership. So everybody, Dr. Sarah Zalwango. Welcome. Sarah, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you.
Yep.
Let's start with you telling us who you are. Who is Dr. Sarah Zalwango?
Oh, yeah. What a question. Good morning. Dr. Sarah Zalwango is a medical doctor with Masters in Public Health, and married with lovely children, 2 of them. And she's an interesting person when you get to know her. She enjoys, she's committed to work, and she enjoys having fun. And I think you've worked with her for a few years, and I think you appreciate that.
Of course.
Yes.
I'm the witness for that.
Okay.
Thank you so much. So what excites you the most about a partnership?
Oh, Partnerships for Health Cities has given us opportunities to learn new approaches to interventions, to learn and share experiences, and to know that, yes, cities are different, but however, irrespective of the various availability of resources, we all share the same challenges. And when you get here, you try to assess yourself. When you see what cities have implemented, you do your self-assessment when you go back, and then you realize that you have to do more. So I love this partnership in that way, but not forgetting the opportunity to travel, to get to see new cities, have fun. Oh, I like the way you've organized this one. This has been the best so far.
Definitely.
I think we keep improving all the time. Well, you get to learn at the same time, have fun, the entertainment, meeting new people. Thank you for the opportunity.
It's my first time to Paris too, so I share the experience.
Yes, the city of lights
yes,
and
definitely.
love.
And how long have you been working in public health sector?
Public health sector is over 10 years. Okay. I started at the level of primary health care, conducting outreaches, being in the community, and over years I've grown into administration where I influence some decisions and also take part in policy formulations. Yep.
And I'm going to be a bit personal. What are you most proud of in your public health career?
A lot, but mainly saving lives and promoting people's lives. And I remember I took part in the pandemic. I was at the forefront of initiating the emergency medical response. We set up a network of ambulances up to deep in the community level, and it was fulfilling and also improving people's lives. Recently, we had an issue with our solid waste management, so I'm down in the ground involving the community in all these initiatives, improving sanitation practices, improving mobility, getting to share the initiatives that we do as Kampala. So I'm proud of a number of things in my career.
Oh, perfect.
Yep.
Personal again. What is your favorite food from Kampala? They want to know.
Favorite food, I think, well, I love matoke. I don't know if you've ever visited Kampala. Matoke are those bananas where we cook them in various ways. We wrap them in banana fibers and steam, and, you know, it's really nice. When you eat it mixed with granite pastes that has smoked fish, oh, it is too delicious. Actually, I'm already missing it. I can't take like 2 days without tasting that. Yep. Please, when you visit Kampala, look out for matoke and the granite pastes in smoked fish.
And they are healthy.
Very healthy.
All right.
Yep.
And what are you most excited about for the next few days while you are here?
Oh, next few days, of course, the field visit. Yesterday's was very nice. I can't wait to visit the Museum of Paris, and also further networking with colleagues and sharing experiences and the fun that comes with it.
All right, thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Joseph.
Thank you. It was a pleasure having you here. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Welcome back, everybody. Hi, my name is Charity Hung, and I'm the Deputy Director of the Partnership for Healthy Cities at Vital Strategies. Please join me in welcoming Commissioner Dr. Bisola Ojikutu to the stage. Thanks for joining us today.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's an honor.
Would you mind introducing yourself to the room for us?
Sure. So I'm the Commissioner of Public Health for the City of Boston. I am also the Executive Director of the Boston Public Health Commission, and it's just wonderful to be here.
So we're going to jump right into it. What would you say is you are most proud of in your public health career?
So I've been in public health for more than 20 years, and for most of that time, I have been an infectious disease doctor, primarily focused on HIV, and a lot of my work, obviously, was public health related. But ironically, what I'm most proud of is not related to infectious diseases at all. It's really related to our renewed commitment to non-communicable diseases in Boston and racial health equity. So it's very interesting. Boston is a very diverse city, a very great city, very resource-rich city, but we also have a life expectancy gap across our city of 23 years. So in a part of our city that is primarily high income and primarily white, life expectancy is 92 years. And in a part of our city that is low income and primarily black and brown, it is 69 years. So that's a 23-year gap. And the reason for that is really about non-communicable diseases. So it's about preventable cancers, it's about cardiometabolic disease, it's about drug overdose. And really when you think about it, the root cause of all that is really chronic disinvestment in our communities. It's about structural racism, it's about residential segregation, and those are the things that we are now going to commit to in Boston. We've actually issued our first population health equity agenda called Live Long and Well. And we've decided to make a pretty deep investment in really talking about and dealing with the social determinants of health within some of our most underserved communities. So I'm very proud of that work.
Thank you for sharing, and it's very important work given these times.
Yes.
Can you also share a little bit more about what the City of Boston is doing with the partnership?
Absolutely. So I'm also really excited about our work with the Partnership for Healthy Cities and Bloomberg and Vital Strategies. So Boston is a Vision Zero city, and it's actually the 10th year that we've been in as a Vision Zero city, so that's a great milestone. And I think it's been a very successful collaboration. And I think one of the reasons that it's been successful is because we've worked across departments, so it's not just public health, it's not just transportation, it's public health and transportation really working collaboratively. So it is about health in all policies, and I know that that's one of the things that we're all sort of struggling with, and how do we work across city departments, how do we work well across city departments, and that's been something that I think that we've, there's been bumps along the way as I've understood, but the reality is that it has been successful. So one of the things that we've done is focused in on safer routes to school, so really thinking about safety for our youngest, and I think that part of that work is really thinking to ourselves about the fact that, like most cities in the U.S., road safety is, it's important, but we're a relatively safe city, but there are also these intersections that are completely dangerous, that oftentimes are in our historically underserved communities. And a lot of those are around schools and where our kids are going back and forth and trying to get to school safely. So with this particular project, what we've thought through is both the operational pieces, so obviously speed bumps, expanding curves, pedestrian islands, those types of things, but really how do you create a culture of safety around our schools and really engage communities, engage the public schools, and really think about how to make this sustainable. Another aspect of our work, and really proud of the fact that we've been able to move this forward, is really think about safety standards for large vehicles. So one of the things that happened in Boston, and it's happened recurrently, is there's been some high-profile traffic injuries that have been involved smaller children, obviously that large vehicles cannot see. And then we also had another incident that occurred, someone in a wheelchair near a hospital. And these high-profile things had kicked off this energy around, let's do something better with our large vehicles. First of all, we shouldn't have as many large vehicles in our cities, in general, but let's make safety standards for them, and let's really think about how to make that a systems improvement. And then more recently, we're focusing in on our surveillance, because if we don't know that there's a problem in terms of motor vehicle crashes, we can't address the problem. So that's other work that we're moving forward under the partnership.
Thank you, Commissioner, and I'm so glad that Boston is leading the way, hint, hint. So last but not least, if we come to Boston, where should we go?
Right.
What's your favorite spot?
So let me tell you, it's interesting. Boston is one of the oldest cities in the U.S., as most people know, and there's lots of historic stuff to see, and the tourist, industry is a big thing. And we have great sports teams. But, what I wanted to tell this audience is that irrespective of what's happening federally, in our country right now, irrespective of the tragedy that's occurring right now, Boston is a welcoming city. And Boston is a city that prides itself on diversity. And I think that what I would like you to know is that it's not just about the things that you think you're going to see when you come to Boston, the historic things. I want people to really come to Boston and see everything that's available. When I came to Boston about 22 years ago, I came during the summer. And what I realized is that, a huge portion of our population is non-US born. We have lots of immigrants across our city. In the summertime, we have Juve, which is the Caribbean Carnival. We have an African festival. We have the Chinatown August Moon Festival. We have all this great stuff to do. So what I would suggest, if you come to Boston, well, first of all, you can call me or text me. What we can do is we're not gonna stay downtown. We're not gonna go to Boston Common necessarily. We're not gonna go to the historic sites. We're actually gonna go into our communities, and we're going to see how people are living. We're going to eat some of the food from folks from all over the world, and we're going to go to some of these festivals because we know how to party, and I really would enjoy showing you that.
Thank you, Commissioner. You heard it here. You can text her if you're in Boston.
Please welcome to the stage public health student Alice Alzeibak.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Alice. I'm a student here in Paris. I recently earned my master's degree in political science and public health. As a public health, thank you. As a public health student, I know how much NCDs matter. But as a political science student, I understand that issues need public support for them to see political action. It can be hard to get people to care about NCDs because they don't think these diseases matter to them. They don't think NCDs are a big problem or have any connection to their own lives. So why should they care? Paris is my home. I was born and raised here, and when I talk to my friends about NCDs, I like to frame them in terms of my city, because this makes it relevant to us. Let me give you an example. Do you know how many people die from cancer every year? Is it option A, around 2 million, or option B, over 9 million? If you think the correct answer is A, please remain seated. If you think it's B, I invite you to please stand up. I can see that the majority of you are experts. Those of you who picked B, you're right. 9.3 million people die from cancer every year. And to frame that in terms of Paris, it's the same number of visitors to the Louvre Museum in 2019. That's a lot of people to lose to preventable diseases. Now let's try a second question. Do you know anyone who is living with NCDs, including heart disease, cancer, diabetes, or chronic respiratory diseases? If the answer is yes, I invite you to stand up again, please, if you can. Well, I'm not surprised that almost everyone in the room stood up. Every 2 seconds, someone aged under 70 dies from an NCD. This is why everyone should care about preventing these diseases. Thank you. I recently did an internship here in France at the Regional Health Agency. During this internship, I saw firsthand how actions to prevent NCDs can change lives. But it wasn't statistics that shaped my perspective. It was people, like Leila. Leila was 52, a mother of 2, and had spent years balancing work and family, always putting her own health last. She never felt sick, so she skipped regular checkups. Over time, she grew more exhausted, short of breath, and constantly battered headaches. She blamed stress until one day, walking home from work, she felt breathless. The diagnosis? Severe hypertension and type 2 diabetes, silent diseases that had developed unnoticed. These conditions could have killed her, but with the right care and lifestyle changes, she's now managing her health. Layla's story reminds me of my mom, always looking after others, never herself. And she's not alone. Non-communicable diseases don't strike overnight. They creep up silently, stealing time, health, and quality of life before taking millions of lives each year. Yet, they are largely preventable. With early action, we can change the outcome for the better. And this is why today's conversation on NCDs and mental health is so important, especially for young people. We have to raise awareness and make the world care, because we have the power to shape a healthier future for ourselves, for our families, for everyone. Let's take action now, so stories like Layla's become the exception, not the norm. I can make my friends care about NCDs, but how can we make the global community care? Now, I invite Dr. Etienne Krug from the World Health Organization to tell us how. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Alice. Good morning, colleagues. First, a few personal messages. Bisola, can I please have your number? I want to do that tour with you. Thank you so much. And congratulations also on the great work you do on road safety in Boston. And to Alice, wow, what a great speech. I'm very impressed. At your age, I would never have dared stand here and talk like that. I would not have been able, and probably nobody would ever have invited me. But you made my life very easy, because I'm supposed to talk here about the importance of NCDs. Alice did it much better than I do. I don't need to convince you more. NCDs are, of course, super important. They can be tackled. We have so many tools, and you know them, ranging from dealing with tobacco, unhealthy foods, air, etc., etc. And you're doing that. And most of the action happens at the local level. However, it's not enough. We also need action at the national and at the global level. And so we wanted to make sure that you don't leave this meeting without a bit of information on the upcoming United Nations high-level meeting on NCDs, which will happen this year in September. Some of you might know, some of you might wonder, why should I care about a big meeting in the United Nations? These meetings are important. They are an opportunity to bring together heads of state and tell them about an important public health issue. And testimony to the importance of NCDs, this will be the fourth high-level meeting of the United Nations General Assembly on NCDs. And I don't think any other health topic ever had 4 such meetings. They are quite rare. And they are an opportunity to brief heads of state on the importance of a topic and the solutions that exist, and get political buy-in. As we all know, top-level leadership, top-level political will is essential to tackle any big topic, and is essential to tackle NCDs. So in September this year, we will have the high-level meeting with a theme on equity, which in the current world, again, is extremely important. We're seeing policies being implemented more and more against equity. The policies that are going to come in the coming months probably are going to fuel inequities, are going to increase income inequality, gender inequality, improve the differences, and as we know, the poor people will suffer the more, and NCDs might rise because of that. So having this theme is going to be very, very important. I'd like to encourage all of you to make sure your head of state attend. To the mayors in this room, you still have 6 months to become the head of state, if you can, because we'd love to have you there as head of state, because you are true champions. But if you can't, please make sure your head of state is there. We need strong attendance. We need this high-level meeting to be a success, and we need the international community to leave New York energized to do more on NCDs. Thank you very much.
Please welcome to the stage from the City of London, Joan McCartney, from the City of Cape Town, Natasha Berkowitz, from the City of Paris, Eve Plenel, and from Vital Strategies, our moderator, Ariella Rojani.
Everyone. Good morning, future heads of state, as I should say. Thank you, Etienne, for the call to action. I hope you're all feeling energized as we cruise towards the end of our programming this morning and head into another very exciting afternoon. I am delighted to be joined by 3 public health luminaries who are having big visions for public health, doing the hard, daily, grinding work of making it happen, and represent 3 cities who are making progress as a result. So thank you for being here. Of course, you also have another thing in common, which is having the distinction of hosting us and this event in the past 3 years. Of course, we have London in 2023, Cape Town in 2024, and Paris this year. So to tie it all together, this is about cities making progress, the big thoughts, the hard work of public health, but also how moments like this and being in community with each other can really make a difference and how we can use global networks to keep our momentum going. I want to say we will have 10 minutes as part of this session at least for Q&A. So please, as we go through this, write down your questions for my colleagues here. If you have questions from other sessions outside of the room, this would be a great time to ask them. But my colleagues will be available to answer questions. So we're not shy anymore. We've broken the ice several times. So I'm counting on all of you to have your questions ready to go. With that, Joanne, I'd love to start with you, please. So 2023, we were in London coming out of the acute stage of the lockdown. For many of us, it was our first international meeting, the first time we saw each other in person for the Partnership for Healthy Cities. But it's been 2 years since we were in London. Can you talk a little bit about the last 2 years and what's happened with regard to public health in London? What's changed and maybe even what stayed the same?
Yes, thank you, and I'm delighted to be here. I think when we met in London, as you said, we were recently coming out of the COVID pandemic, and what that pandemic showed us was that it exacerbated health inequalities that were already there. So I think when we met, there was actually a new determination, a new passion to actually act on that and to come together and really deliver change. And so since then, what we have done is particularly, and I'll talk about this shortly, I think, we've a renewed focus on air quality. We launched a program to support the health of our youngest children by providing a new program to provide free school meals, healthy meals, to all our primary school pupils. We've put defibrillators in all our London Underground stations, and we've increased our active travel and transport options. So a whole load of new work that's taken place and a really renewed emphasis on trying to tackle those health inequalities.
Great. Thank you so much, Joanne. I think that challenge is not just yours alone. We've heard from several other speakers that this is pervasive. This is why we do the work that we do. And it's great to hear more about how the pandemic really kickstarted a lot of that action, and that's taken place since then. You mentioned air quality, and I'm so glad that you did. One of the ideas that generated a huge amount of interest when we were in London a couple of years ago, but also since then, was one of Mayor Khan's flagship initiatives, the ultra-low emission zones. And for those who don't know, these are interventions that have made neighborhoods and streets and entire parts of London have improved the air quality significantly. And, of course, these ideas were not necessarily welcomed off the bat. There's a huge amount of documented opposition to this, but also recent data that shows that it's improved the air quality for a huge amount of Londoners at greatest risk for health. Can you speak a little bit more about what you've learned from the ULAS process and, where that work goes from here?
Yes, so as I said earlier, we've really focused on improving our air quality, And about a year ago, the Mayor extended our ultra-low emission zone to cover the whole of the Greater London area. And a recent report has shown that it's had significant impact on the health of Londoners, and in particular our youngest Londoners and our most vulnerable citizens. So across the whole of London, for example, levels of nitrogen dioxide, which really exacerbates asthma and lung conditions, has fallen by 27%, and more so in the central area, where it has more than halved those nitrogen oxides. So it's had a real impact on our health. We're obviously not stopping there, and we're increasing active travel options. We're drastically improving our cycle networks, installing EV charging points. If I can just speak as a politician for a moment, you're quite right. There was a great deal of opposition, and really loud voices in opposition to this. In actual fact, the political opposition framed the last election last year as a referendum on those policies. And I'm pleased to say that Mayor Sadiq Khan won decisively, and it turns out that people actually like breathing cleaner air.
Go figure. Thank you. Thanks, Joanne, for speaking to that, and congratulations on the work. We're, of course, thrilled to know that this work is now part of a cemented legacy. I'm going to move on to my friend Natasha right here. Natasha, thank you for being here. We were in Cape Town last year, and one of the things that the City of Cape Town did last year at the summit was actually announce a new urban health initiative. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. Just hearing my colleagues speak here and all the work that's been done, I feel like the City of Cape Town has been on a similar journey to many of the cities here. So our Urban Health Initiative, to those that weren't there last year, unfortunately, you're welcome back to Cape Town anytime, is an overarching strategy to connect all the elements within the city, all our mandated responsibilities that ultimately have an impact on health. So what we're doing is identifying those core priority areas, looking at how we can implement policy and programmatic change, and then finally do monitoring and evaluation to see what impact those priorities and policy changes would have on health. We've had a very exciting year since then. It's been very busy, a year of consensus building, stakeholder engagement. We've built a urban health steering committee. Some of those steering committee members are here with us today, so if you want to chat to any of us to learn what we're doing, I welcome you in the last day and a half of the conference to do that. Through the steering committee, which includes individuals from not only the city health department, but other transversal departments that are involved in resilience and strategic planning and research. We have identified key stakeholders, done some mapping around that, looked at developing some key strategic documentation, and then also identified our priority areas going forward into the next year. So by the end of this year, we'll have an urban health implementation plan. We'll have established a community of practice with academics and local researchers, and also hopefully pull together a state of urban health report where we'll be looking at those core baseline key indicators that dictate and measure the health of the City of Cape Town. Ultimately, the aim of this initiative is to base health outcomes as priority setting mechanism and tool for the rest of the city. So ultimately, one of the key goals for the city is to create a healthy and economically active community.
Wonderful, thank you. A huge amount of work. I'm sure you're quite tired after a very busy year. But I think one of the things that's been so incredible about the work that you're doing is, as you said, making a dedicated effort to tie all of these threads together and then put it forward as a political priority and be able to make a resounding and unimpeachable case for the importance of urban health going forward. Without putting you on the spot and asking you to make yet another announcement, could you maybe speak a little bit to other priorities you have around NCDs and injury prevention for the next year?
Sure. So we've identified 7 key priorities within the urban health program, many of those related to NCDs and injuries. So for example, air quality and transport, we've lumped those together as they are synergistic, are some of our key priority areas, really strengthening our core baseline measurements and using those data for policy amendment and creation, expanding on our food environment work that we've been working with Partnership for Healthy Cities, focusing on just what we were speaking about just before the break as well. And then also around safety and injuries, looking at how to address, we know crime is a key issue within the city of Cape Town, and that impacts health as well. So how can we address safety and the impact it has on our communities?
Thank you so much, Natasha. And as you so eloquently put, again, the interconnectedness of this is critical to talk about and to unpack and to also codify around a strategy. So I'm sure you'll have lots of questions about addressing not just the content, but also the governance side of things and how we really get stronger in public health governance for NCDs and injuries. Ev, I'd love to turn to you, please. Thank you again, first of all, for putting on such a wonderful event for us and for hosting us. This has been absolutely incredible. I'd love to talk to you about not necessarily Paris in this moment, but about what you have taken away from other cities in the last 2 days.
Thank you, Ariella, and well, again, thanks to all the team, because we're just the host city. You did everything. I'll take back from the past 2 days, but also the past 2 years, because I had the chance to be in London 2 years ago, and that's where our journey started. I'll take back 3 things. First, I'm sure Paris can go further on tobacco control. It's a policy where we've been shy somehow for historical, sociological reasons in France, cultural reasons probably. And so I'll propose to the next candidates, for municipal election next year, a strategy on tobacco control based on the amazing work some of you have been doing. The second thing, and that's what we're working on with the Partnership for Healthy Cities, is the importance of data, of course, but also a lot of you have raised the issue of economic outputs and how you don't just modelize or the data in terms of health outputs or health outcomes, but also how do you show the economic benefits of your health policy. So that's something I'd be happy to work with you on. And the third idea is what was discussed yesterday morning about communication and eloquence. We need political will, we need good data, that's true, but we also need wonderful leaders like you, and especially women leaders, if I may suggest. That's one thing we have in common here. So yeah, that's what I will let you on.
Thank you. I don't think you'll get any dissent, and if you do, we'll talk to them afterwards. But no, I love to hear you mapping out these priorities, and again, a great reminder of why networks are so important, because they allow us to also do some benchmarking and some internal priority setting and observing where other cities are progressing, maybe not our cities, and how we can maybe learn from each other and really catch up if there needs to be an area of catching up. So thank you for sharing what your priorities might be going forward. I want to pivot a little bit, Ev, and talk to you about sort of your professional journey a bit. I think I have in our minds that, if you're in this room, once an NCD person, always an NCD person, and that's not necessarily the case. You come from the world of AIDS activism, and you have a long history and an amazing history of being an activist. Can you speak a little bit about how you've brought that into your current role?
Sure.
Thanks.
Yeah, I usually talk in infectious disease summits, that's true. Well, the one thing the AIDS epidemic and the fight against the HIV epidemic has learned us for the past 40 years is that communities are, the community organizing and communities are this, the center of what we have to do. And talking about NCDs, of course, we need science, research, medical community, expertise, data. Of course, we need political will. But if we do everything just with those 2 pillars and we forget the communities, then we will fail. Because, with 3 pillars, you're more stable. just to give you an example, the past 2 years we've been working on our environmental health plan that I mentioned yesterday. And we did focus groups in working class neighborhoods, in, well, disadvantaged neighborhoods with families whom we thought had no idea about endocrine disruptors, chemical pollutants, food policy. They knew everything perfectly. They knew exactly what was needed for the children. They knew that during pregnancy and the first 2 years of life, it's an exposure moment very, very important. But they told us what was complex for them in terms of buying proper food or accessing certain services. And we designed everything from what they had to tell us. And still now, our plan for environmental health is advised by a council that is half physicians and scientists and half civil society. So what AIDS told me, or the AIDS activism, is that we need communities and we need to pay attention not just to the majority but to minority issues.
Brilliantly put. I think the phrase is nothing about us without us, and I think it applies to all public health issues and especially NCDs. And I think that we're on that learning curve about how to meaningfully integrate community feedback, but also, it was put in an earlier panel, start from a place of community feedback. Don't make assumptions. Start by listening to the community and growing initiatives and policies from there. Yes, we know what works, but it won't work without community input, especially. So thank you for reflecting on that and bringing that into this conversation. I actually have a question for all three of you, and any one of you can jump in, or multiple. One of the other commonalities across this stage is that you represent cities with very strong mayors who have made public health a part of their legacy. It's been remarked on, and I think can't be overstated, how uncertain times are right now. International cooperation is falling out of favor, to put it politely, in many places. What comes to mind is how we can fortify the work that we're doing, and how have you fortified the work of your departments as the ground underneath us continues to shift and really doesn't provide a lot of stability. So would one of you like to comment on that? Yeah, please, Natasha.
So thinking about that, what comes to mind is continuity and really strong foundations. So anything can happen to any of us at any moment. Yeah. We are passionate people that are sitting in this room, but we may not be in these positions of power forever. So it's creating plans and programs and policies that can stand the test of time, and I think including community in that is so important. But then through any political shift, through any global crisis, that should we disappear, that foundation of what we want to achieve remains, and someone else can just step into that space and continue the work that was already started.
Yeah, brilliant. I don't think we have to convince this room of the value of policy, but that's certainly one of the benefits of working on policy and really thinking institutionally. Ev, Joanne, would you like to jump in?
Yeah. Can I say, I think one of the things that we all know in this room is that no matter what your national or international what's happening there, that cities are often the instigators of real innovation and real policies on the ground that make a big difference. And so one of the things we've been very keen to do is to really fortify those partnerships that we had that actually were helped to be stronger during the COVID pandemic because we were working so closely together. So that continuity and that long-term planning so that you can make sustainable change is really important. But one of the other things we've done at the Greater London Authority is we've set up a new public health unit which offers advice and is providing an evidence base with the organisations that the Mayor of London directs. So that's having a real impact, and we hope a long-term impact, embedding that real evidence within all the work that we do.
Great. Again, policy change, but governance change to meet that policy change. Ev.
And maybe if I can add up something, is that we need to teach, we need to train our new generations. We're not that old, but still. When I started in public health 20 years ago, I realized that the generation above me hadn't created proper public health schools with community leaders teaching, with exchanges between political leaders, activists, and medical doctors, physician researchers. That didn't exist. I tried to create that three years ago at Sciences Po here in Paris. And I think it's really important that what we do, of course, we need to exchange, to share, to publish, but also to transmit to new generations. And I would like just to say a word for the wonderful talk we've had with Alice, if I remember correctly, before. So yeah, keep fighting and keep training new generations.
Brilliant, all three of you. Thank you so much. I think, again, a lot of ideas here, not just about the vertical policy interventions. How does our governance stay fit for purpose? How do we make sure that it's able to uphold the work that we're all doing? And also, as you said, Ev, sort of bringing in the next generation so that when we all leave our posts and when the people above us and below us leave our posts, that there's a huge pipeline of great talent to continue working on this. Before we turn to Q&A, I just want to give any of you a last word, or sort of one piece of advice or one hope that you have for folks in this room about how they might continue the momentum after the summit and as we go home to our respective cities.
I think for me, it's about knowing the difference you're making to your communities, and actually being grounded in that is really important. So I've been leading the Mayor Khan's work on free school meals for our children, and while the policy, we know it's a good policy, it works, actually going into schools and talking to pupils, the teachers and parents is actually what makes me realise that actually the work we're doing has real value and is actually changing lives. And I think that's really important. So making sure you visit what you're doing. And I think then you can talk with authority. But also you have then community champions who do that communication for you as well.
Brilliant, thanks, Joanne. I think what you're saying is sitting behind a desk and emailing is not it. Get out into the communities. Ev, Natasha, any final thoughts from you?
Just, I think what I learned from Mayor Hidalgo is that sometimes you really have to be bold and brave and don't just listen to your inner voice. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think coming off the conversation we had yesterday evening on that beautiful terrace was treat the network as a family. It's been wonderful to go through 3 summits now, meeting people that we engaged with at the first summit and seeing the growth in all of our work. So leaning off people that you've met along the way, sharing challenges and being each other's best supporters, really, because we all need sometimes a bit of a cheerleading squad at the end of the day after, it's a hard job. But just leveraging that network opportunity would be my recommendation.
Wonderful, thank you. What a nice note to end on. And yes, it is a very hard job. This is very hard work. We're here to support you. We want to be your cheerleaders and do as much as we can to make sure that your work is protected and keeps moving forward. With that, I would love to open it up to the audience for any questions you may have. Again, a reminder, we have headsets that we will use for folks who may want to ask a question in their language. Is there anybody out there who would like to ask a question for the panel? Please don't be shy. I can't really see. Yep, right up here in front. Thank you. I'll stand up. Yeah. Is there a microphone that we can get to the front? Coming, thank you.
Good morning. Thank you to all of you for a wonderful panel. I'm Jenna from New York City Health Department. I wanted to ask a question about, several of you talked about making economic arguments and really thinking about economics. And I want to take it even a little bit further. And in public health, I don't think we're great at thinking about the other audiences. We often think that the evidence is so obvious and that we've done all of our homework and that everyone should agree with us. And I think we're all getting smarter at thinking about how do we make the business argument, the economic argument, other arguments. But I would love to hear you all, and you too, Ariella, reflect on how do we get better at that? Is it bringing in health economists? Is it certainly thinking about communication, but how do we get better at talking to different audiences in different ways so that they listen and want to come along with us?
Wonderful. Thank you so much for the question, Jenna. I'm going to turn to the panel, not to pick on you, Natasha. We were just talking about this yesterday with regard to how to generate more support around political leadership. Do you mind
Yeah, sure. I'm actually going to take that out of the political space, but into the government official space. And I think taking a step back, and I completely agree with you, as a public health clinician, the numbers are obvious to me. And then when I see things published in the media and people go absolutely wild about it, I'm like, no, but that, everyone knows that. So I think in this journey, what I found most helpful is that we don't just look internally in the public health space, but in departments that you wouldn't traditionally perhaps talk to or engage with. So in the city of Cape Town, we have departments that really are advisory and strategic guidance and research for our political leadership, and collaborating with them to translate our public health language into a language that city leadership, so our official leadership, as well as our political leadership will understand. Because remember, those are the departments that are, creating our broader city development plans, etc. So if you can get starting off with 2 lines about public health in those strategic plans, and then expanding that into the language that's needed, that's where we've started, and it's been incredibly helpful to create community, to create consensus, to create buy-in from different departments.
Joanne?
Yep. Can I just give an example of the ultra-low emission zone in London? And as we talked before, there was a lot of opposition to it, particularly amongst businesses who were concerned that vehicles travelling around would have to be replaced. I think, first of all, the mayor made the case that it was actually there was a good moral argument. It's a real social justice issue, because health inequalities was at the heart of it. But actually, we also made the economic case as well. We did an evaluation before the project went live that showed the amount of days that would be saved for employers through workers going off on ill health. We talked about the savings in the many millions to our local health service, which would enable people to get treated quicker because doctors were not busy dealing with so many asthma cases, for example. So I think the economic case is important, but it's the framing of how you do it so that it's understandable and relatable.
And maybe on this aspect, because we realized by working for this summit that we've had in Paris this health in all policies approach, but without stating it, and so without counting how much we invested in topics that are related to health or have health outcomes. We have a gender budget, but we don't have a health budget like that, a cross-sectoral budget that would see what my colleagues invest in greening the city, how much it costs, what they did for food policy. For instance, the food policy I showed yesterday is not integrated in my budget, so I can't estimate it. So that's one thing I'm coming back from the summit with, and I'd love to work on this year. That's on the costs, and of course, on the other end, the economists, and I agree with you, we definitely need health economists in our teams.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks again for the question. I think that puts it perfectly, Evan, is a great segue into the, sort of a broader conversation that's happening right now, as Etienne mentioned, around the UN high-level meeting and at the city level, but the national level. And in this moment of really constrained resources, where do we find resources to support NCD and injury prevention? And it starts with better identifying, I think, where resources already exist and stronger indicators so that we can actually track and articulate the health outcomes from investments that sit outside of the health sector. So I think, yes, it's about appealing to people in ministries of finance and departments of finance on what the public health sides are, and I think we all hope that they're enlightened and hear about number of lives lost and morbidity and mortality and they're persuaded to action. I think it's also about doing a bit of homework ourselves and becoming better informed about what their incentives are, what their motivations are, and how we can change and influence larger tracking systems and investment systems to make sure that they reflect public health impacts. Other questions from the audience? Right in the back there, thank you. We'll have time for this very quickly and then perhaps one more.
Super, thank you. Speaking from Dublin, it's very interesting to get such a cross-section of different ways of approaching public health and how it may interface other areas. Looking back, based on the knowledge you have now so far along your journeys, if you were to go back in time, is there anything that you do differently?
Oh, thanks, Jack. Putting people on the spot. Would anyone like to respond to that? Oh, take it away.
Yeah, of course, I mean, it's never 100% perfect job, and there are failures. For instance, in the relationship between local and central government, there are things now I would do differently. We've tried to partner with central state agencies. We've tried to accept the way public health policies were designed in France at a national level. We accepted that because we thought, you're creating a Department of Public Health in your city. Don't make everyone mad at the Ministry of Public Health. So, let's try to work together. And in many areas, it didn't work because the way public health policies are designed at national level doesn't take into account communities, doesn't take into account how people actually live, or how users like the last mile of the policy. So today, I would fight more than I did 3 years ago. And I would tell them more clearly, what you're doing is just, not imagined the right way. And I'm specifically thinking of a vaccination campaign on HPV, on papillomavirus, that was designed completely, not well. And we've been struggling with it for 2 years. And so, yeah. That's what I meant by saying, be bold. Sometimes, have the courage to say, we're not doing this way.
Absolutely. I think if we all leave this room with one message, fight more. That's a good one. One more very quick question maybe from the back, if that's all right. So someone had their hand up over there. Yes, you sir over there.
Yes, thank you, our panelists and all the other previous speakers. My name is Victor from Nairobi, Kenya. I would like to know, especially in the space of healthy meals, how have you been able to fight the multi-billion-dollar food industry to try and achieve these things? Because I know they play a very big role. Thank you.
Thank you, Victor. Who wants that question?
Should I start?
Please, Joanne, thank you.
Yes.
We only have a minute left, so you don't have to get too into it, but please, thank you.
Well, when Mayor Sadiq Khan in London was first elected in 2016, one of the first bold policies he put into place was banning junk food advertising on our transport network. And there was a lot of opposition to that from opposition politicians, but also from the food and drinks industry. And I think, so they did try to challenge about how the policy in particular was implemented, but we persevered, and it was difficult, but we got through it because we knew it was the right thing to do, and the evidence shows that it actually works. So I think it's about that persistence, it's about that fighting, but also making sure that you have the evidence and you have the robustness in your policies so that they are less likely to be challenged. I mean, the other concern was with the advertising, that it would mean a loss in revenue for our transport authority, but actually it hasn't been, and it hasn't led to that. And what it has done with actually trying to engage the industry, what they have done is they've tailored the advertising, so they may not advertise their sugary drinks or their unhealthy food. They are more likely now to advertise more healthier options. So they have adapted, and we have stuck to our guns.
Again, fight more, stick to your guns. Well, thank you for that answer. And again, strong evidence wins the day. I think the work that you did on the ad ban is really a testament to that. And Victor, and for anyone else in the room who wants to talk more about tactics, I think these folks, but also anyone in the room, would be a great resource for doing so. Thank you so much. Please join me in thanking our wonderful panelists.
Please welcome to the stage from Bloomberg Philanthropies, Kelly Larson.
That was fun to see representatives from hosts of the last 3 summits up on the stage. I guess the big question will be, who will host the next summit? We'll keep you posted on that. So this concludes our official plenary of the 2025 Partnership for Healthy Cities Summit. And I wanted to take just a couple minutes to try to give you some key takeaways from the last 2 days. We've got extraordinary expertise in this room and in your cities. And we just want to encourage you to continue to be each other's best supporters. And we at Vital Strategies and WHO will do our best to facilitate the exchange of all of your expertise. Over the last 2 days, and yesterday in particular, we learned more about communicating complicated NCD and injury messages in simple ways. So keep refining your messages and remember that repetition, and I think Jamie said we need to hear things 3 times before we remember can, as she said. Keep giving clear and simple messages, and understand your audience. Mayor Hidalgo mentioned that public health needs political courage. And Patti said that Mike always says, nothing important is easy. So thank you to our mayors for their political courage in all of the work that they do, and to all of you for your efforts. We want to congratulate the award winners this year, and know that in 2027 we will give awards again at that 2027 summit. And then finally, we get to come together once a year, but we'll continue to support the networking and exchange of information throughout the year. So please take advantage of the networking opportunities, whether it be in person, regional, by topic, and Vital Strategies does such a good job of coordinating all of that work. So again, thank you so much. We're excited for the year to come. We're appreciative of the last 2 days, but our summit is not over, actually. Concluding this session here, the technical leads will go straight into lunch, and mayors will be meeting outside in the hub. And the mayors will be having lunch with Mayor Hidalgo at City Hall. So that will be a lot of fun, and we'll share more about that tonight at the Eiffel Tower. The buses will leave at 5:30 tonight for the Eiffel Tower. Don't forget to bring your credentials, because they won't let you up without your credential. And if you lost yours, I've had to get my credential printed twice. So don't hesitate to get a new credential. And then tomorrow we have networking. So Vital Strategies and WHO have organized different opportunities for networking. And so we look forward to seeing all of you tomorrow, a little bit more informal. And so it should be a lot of fun. So while I conclude, we always need to say our thank yous. And there are many thank yous, and probably can't thank every single person who helped put all of this together. But first and foremost, we would like to thank the City of Paris for being such a great co-host. It was 3 months of weekly calls and very clear planning, and they were really great partners, as were Cape Town and London. Emily Hiltzik with Bloomberg Philanthropies coordinated this entire event. Big shout out to Emily and her team, thank you. Event Concepts, who made this beautiful room and made everything run so smoothly, and Canvas for getting all of you here and comfortably situated. Obviously, the Hotel Intercontinental, and then our partners, Vital Strategies and WHO, who take care of you every single day. And we're really proud at Bloomberg Philanthropies to partner with both those organizations who are doing such a great job in supporting the Partnership for Healthy Cities. Excuse me.